Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to take a really energetic look at the fascinating mechanics of our economy. We're taking those incredibly complex macroeconomic models and transforming them into clear, actionable understanding. We're going to unpack the actual gears that make everything around us work. So, here's our roadmap for today. We're deliberately zooming out from the individual choices you make every single day, right up to the massive, interconnected gears of national policy. We'll hit scarcity and opportunity cost, micro versus macro, factors of production, the circular flow, injections and leakages, and finally, thinking like an economist. Let's get right into it. Section 1, Scarcity and Opportunity Cost, the ultimate human problem. Okay, so we absolutely have to start with the foundational problem of literally all economic theory, and that's scarcity. Think of scarcity as this constant, unavoidable tension between our unlimited wants and our strictly limited means. Basically, because our resources are scarce, we're forced to make choices. And here is the real kicker. Every single choice we make carries a hidden cost. To ground this idea, let's imagine a really practical scenario. What does a quote-unquote free choice actually cost you? Let's say you're choosing between a theater concert that costs $25 for a ticket and a completely free concert happening at the exact same time in a park nearby. So, which one is the cheaper option? Well, an accountant only sees that $25 out-of-pocket ticket price, right? But an economist calculates your true opportunity cost totally differently. Let's say the value of the enjoyment you'd get from that free park concert is about $15. You actually have to add that to your cost. It's the value of the best alternative forgone, meaning your total economic cost for the theater concert is actually $40. Mind-blowing, right? Opportunity cost is just a super powerful way of looking at the world. Moving on to Section 2, Micro versus Macroeconomics, zooming out. Now that we've seen how we make individual decisions, let's take a step back and look at the two very different lenses economists use to study all this stuff. Microeconomics is the small-scale study of the individual parts, consumers, households, individual firms. Macroeconomics, on the other hand, zooms way out to the aggregate. It looks at the big picture, total national production, and the behavior of the entire economy as one giant unit. That brings us to Section 3, Factors of Production, the engine's fuel. To really understand this massive macroeconomic machine, we first need to identify the fuel that makes production possible. I mean, you can't just build an economy out of thin air, right? We have to combine four things. First is land, which basically means all our natural resources. Then we add labor, capital, like machinery and factories, and finally, entrepreneurship, those visionaries taking the risks to orchestrate the whole shebang. But remember, and this is absolutely crucial, the flip side of production is that it simultaneously creates income. It specifically rewards each of those factors for their contribution. So natural resources earn rent, labor earns wages and salaries, capital generates interest, and entrepreneurship, well, that's rewarded with profit. The main takeaway here is that every single time something is produced, income is fundamentally generated. Okay, Section 4, the circular flow, building the machine. Let's see how all this builds into a functioning, continuous cycle of economic activity. At its core, the economy is a simple flow variable that we measure over time. The production creates the income we just talked about, and then that income is spent by us, the households, to satisfy our wants. And guess what? That spending, in turn, drives even more production. It's this continuous, perpetual loop of economic life. Expanding on this concept just a bit, we can see exactly where these exchanges happen. Households sell their labor and other inputs in what we call the factor market to firms. In exchange, the firms pay them income. Then, households turn right around and spend that income in the goods market, buying the exact products and services the firms just created. It really is a perfectly balanced figure eight of trade. Now for the boss level. Let's add a crucial new player right into the center of this machine: the government. Notice how the government literally pulls money out of the cycle through taxes from both households and firms. But it doesn't just sit on that money. It immediately injects it back in by purchasing goods, hiring labor in the factor market, and providing essential public goods and services to everyone. Up next, Section 5, Injections, Leakages, and Policy, Regulating the Flow. So this machine we've been building isn't a completely sealed loop. Money is constantly entering and leaving the system, and we have to manage the balance. Things like business investments, government spending, and money from foreign exports act as injections. They literally pump energy and capital right into the flow. Conversely, when we squirrel money away as savings, when we pay our taxes, or when we buy imported goods from other countries, those act as leakages. They effectively drain capital out of our domestic cycle. To ensure external stability and steady economic growth, the authorities actually have to manage these flows using two completely distinct toolkits. The first one is monetary policy. This is handled by central banks, like the South African Reserve Bank, for example, who control interest rates to keep inflation low and stable. The second toolkit is fiscal policy, which is wielded by the central government. They use this to directly adjust the economy's pressure valves through taxation and government spending. Finally, Section 6. Thinking like an economist, spotting the flaws. Before we wrap up this explainer, I want to empower you with the analytical tools to spot logical fallacies in everyday news. To test your new skills, consider this totally surprising yet completely real statistic. More people die on bowling greens than in any other sport. Seriously. So, looking at that data, is bowling inherently deadly? Like, should we be banning it for public safety? No way. This brilliantly illustrates a core economic fallacy. Just because two events happen together does not mean one caused the other. Correlation absolutely does not equal causation. In this specific case, an older demographic typically plays bowls, which naturally explains the higher mortality rates on the greens. The sport itself isn't dangerous at all. You always have to look for those hidden variables. Here's another major trap: confusing static levels with rates of change. If a news headline screams that inflation dropped from 9% in 2008 to 7% in 2009, did prices actually get cheaper? Nope, they just got expensive slightly slower. The rate declined for sure, but the overall level of prices was still climbing. This is a super crucial distinction to keep in mind when you're interpreting any macroeconomic data. As we wrap things up today, I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Knowing that every single action, no matter how small, changes the balance of the entire macroeconomic circular flow, how will you use an economist's lens to view your daily decisions tomorrow? Thanks so much for engaging with this explainer, and I hope you start spotting those hidden opportunity costs absolutely everywhere.